We start our journey at Aqueduct village, and this is the Silken Way. To the left you can see the stone aqueduct that gave the village its name. The A442 trunk road trundled up underneath this bridge and actually has caused some damage to it. Eventually it was diverted. The bridge was actually opened in 1792 with the Shropshire Canal, and it carries the Brierley Hill section to Coalbrookdale. Now we're heading up the Silken Way. This is a long distance footpath of around 14 miles that takes you between Admerston and Coalport. The bridge you see is an original railway bridge that used to carry the A442 once it was diverted, the Whitchurch Road. The concrete arched roof and this hideous colour was later added by the local council to try and strengthen the bridge. We're coming up to a very important junction in the canal. The canal ran north up the Silken Way, but also ran left to Brierley Hill. This part of the canal was plagued with problems, with subsidence a regular event. In 1861, the Coalport to Wellington railway line was opened. This was run by the London Midland Scottish Railway. This bridge coming up took a track over to an area known as Park Hill. Much of Park Hill is now covered in houses, but there's a really nice nature reserve up there. We are now coming into what is known as the tunnel. Although it doesn't look like a tunnel, originally this would have had a roof on it. I understand that's probably a little hard to believe, but when the railway was built, the actual ground level was built up quite a way, so you can actually see the sandstone cutting to the left hand side and a much shallower cutting to the right hand side. There are some cottages off Aqueduct Road that are called tunnel cottages, named after the original tunnel. The southern parts of the Silken Way are some of the straightest pieces of path on the 14-mile route. It's worth noting another access to the nature reserve is coming up on the left hand side. Coming up now, this is the bridge over Sturchley Lane. Now on the left hand side we'll be coming into what was known as Sturchley and Dawley Station. Sturchley and Dawley Station opened in 1961 and closed in 1962, just before the new town came. You can see the original platform here, although this area has been remodelled recently by the local council to provide a nice leisure spot with some benches. Parts of the foundation to the old station can be seen to the left hand side. The next railway station along this route would have been Mallonsley Station, or better known as Dark Lane. Across here you can see the old Watkins coal yard. This was very popular during the 1960s. As you can see, the sign says Dawley and Sturchley. However, it's more nearer to Sturchley than it is Dawley. And Dawley actually had two railway stations, Horsey and Dawley. It shows how well thought of Dawley was within the Shropshire area. Well, we continue up the Silken Way now, and you can see it's gone from a divided path now just into one, but it's still wide enough. Some beautiful trees along this route. The original Shropshire Canal is actually running to the left hand side just above that slight embankment. Now as we come down, we're going to come up to a junction. If you take a right at that junction, then that will take you towards Sturchley Grange and on to Sturchley Chimney. However, we are going to take a left turning, which is going to take us into Sturchley Pools. This is definitely a spot where you need to demount your bike to get through this little section. Now, there's a little bit of a climb here, so make sure you get into first gear first. So, we're going over the top of the canal. So, the canal runs left to right. We're just going over it now. So, we're going to take a left turning, which basically, Sturchley Pools are split in half by this narrow track. So, the canal, the old Shropshire Canal, is to the left. Sturchley Pools is to the right. There's two pools that run next to each other. Now what this pool was actually used for was a top up for the canal, to almost like a reservoir. It's a very, very narrow track, normally littered with fishermen, but today it's very, very quiet, and it's actually very nice to have a little ride along here. This is actually a really well preserved section of the Shropshire Canal. We've got some ducks here, look. And it's quite mad to think that you'd have horses running along this little towpath here, towing these big barges backwards and forwards, and who would probably carry all sorts of things like iron ore, coal, anything really. It was the main form of transport before the railways. So as we come to the end of here, we've got a little bit of a slope to climb. Then we've got a bit of a precarious off-roading style track to do. So here we go, up we come, and we don't know. You see, the trouble is at the moment we've had a lot of windy weather, and some of the trees might also be down. So let's see how we get on with this track. If you do follow this track all the way, then it will take you to Hinksay Lane via a rather large flight of steps. So this pathway sort of gently climbs up to the upper pool. You can, like I said to you, it is a proper little mountain bike trail, isn't it? So here we go now. So we're going to take a right turn in now. You can see where the brook comes in, it feeds it in. So we will go right, and then we're on another dividing path now, and there's the other pool there. So we've got the upper pool and the lower pool down to the right. This one is a little bit wider, but normally, as I've said, littered with fishermen. Normally we've got their rods and all sorts out as you're trying to negotiate this path. Well, the car park is now in sight, and normally there's quite a few cars on this car park for the anglers. Old abandoned bag of sand there. Now we're going to join on to what's called the Jerry Rails now, which is a path that connects the Silken Way up to the bottom end of Matlock Avenue in Dawley. And on this occasion we've got a tractor blocking the complete track all the way there. I think he's just going to leave it there, and I'm going to just try and get off my bike and go. I wonder if I can do this. It's a bit rough on the go. You can see that big Gabion wall there on the left hand side. That's the new housing estate that was built on the old field study area. And there's a development left and right of this by Countryside Properties, a really nice one, and they've built a nice flood alleviation pond here on the right hand side, which eventually empties into Sturchley Pools. So on the left hand side you've got all rented houses, on the right hand side we've got the houses that are quite expensive. So we're coming up the Jerry Rails now, and why did it get the name the Jerry Rails? Well, it was due to the pub that was on the corner here, and it was named after the Tom and Jerry. Now, we're not sure if it's Tom and Jerry as in the cartoon character, but also there was a special drink or something that was mixed together that was called Tom and Jerry. So what we're coming on to now is Dark Lane, which the Jerry Rails, which is the pub what it was named after, was actually on, which we'll take a look at right now. The Jerry Rails were built where those houses were to the right. It was quite an old pub, eventually renamed in 1877 to the White Hart. So we're travelling up Dark Lane now. Now we're coming on the right hand side where these new houses by Countryside have been built. This was the site of the Eveready Factory. The Eveready Factory was a big employer in the Dawley area, employing mostly women. It was opened in 1956 and closed in 1994, and it is one of two factories that Eveready used. And if anybody doesn't know what Eveready is, they make batteries. Also, on the right hand side was a church or a chapel. It was actually known as the Hinksey Church of England Mission. And just behind that were a collection of cottages built by the Botfield family. Now, the Botfield family owned the local ironworks, and they had quite a few different rows on these cottages, which are all on the right hand side now. And the cottages were built between 1815 and 1833, and there was new row, ladies row and single row. They were basically just workers' cottages. A couple of years ago, Nexus Heritage actually excavated the site and tried to find out a little bit more about the area. Nice to see the local council there filling in a few potholes. This house on the left hand side was always famous when coming into the town park for the sheer amount of ornaments and garden gnomes outside. To the right hand side now, we have the Horsefield with those unmistakable views over the town park and Sturchley Chimney in the background. On the left hand side are some very lucky people who had the chance, thanks to Telford Development Corporation, to build their own bungalows. On the left hand side coming up, we have the rugby club, home to the Telford Hornets. On the right hand side, we've got another footpath that takes you down towards Brookside via Sturchley Village. All these rocks on the left hand side are all rocks that have been found and salvaged all over Telford during its construction. Next time you're passing, take a closer look at these rocks, because some are very rounded and actually show how far they've come. These have been found during the construction of the town park and the Telford town centre. Although this lane is known as Hinksey Road, it actually is known as Dark Lane, and it got lost amongst the midst of time. Dark Lane runs from Hinksey to Prarsley, and Dark Lane Village was originally where parts of the town centre and Hollins Wood once went. The council paid homage to that name and renamed the car park Dark Lane. On the left hand side coming up was the site of Stone Row, an old group of cottages. So we're going to take a short left now. Slight hill, bark mulch, and next to us on the left hand side is Withley Pool, another short reservoir to top the canal up. This pool is famous for the catfish. Have you ever caught one? Do you know what one looks like? Does it look like a cat? Anyway, this pool is connected to Randley Pool via an underground culvert. We now are about to enter the actual town park, the play area as other people know. Withley Pool is on the left hand side, Dark Lane is running down the bottom on the right hand side at the bottom of the slope. So as we come out now, you'll start to see the park. So the first thing we're going to look at is the chapel, as you can see right in front of us. This chapel dates from the 12th century and it's been a ruin since the 1700s. It was actually originally located in the middle of the Telford centre. This is the landscaped area of Withley Pool. It was later abandoned in the 1980s due to it being unsafe. I'm sure some of you can remember the sundial that was just around the corner here. Whatever happened to it? Where did it go? So now we're going to do a circle of the 12th century chapel. So this chapel was actually more than likely have been a place for travellers to stay in. As I said, it was originally located in the middle of the Telford town centre. The stone was quarried locally in an old quarry which isn't too far away from here. It was taken down brick by brick and stored in a council depot until such time it was relocated and built here. It's been open to the public but now is part of this play area, and I think it just stores benches in it. You can see the town park how beautiful it is this time of year. Those beautiful plants there, really setting off the lake. The lake on the right hand side is an original lake that was there. The visitor centre is to the left as well. This part here was actually replaced much later on, and there used to be some domed shelters that used to be there, multicoloured ones. As we come up, as you can see, we've got the play area to the right hand side, the younger play area, which, if you can remember, originally there was a train track one there. On the right, just at a shot, you can see the spider's web. That's one of two spider's webs was there. That's the smaller one, recently been replaced as well. The completely iconic rocket slide there, unfortunately all closed off because of the coronavirus. So we're now just coming up to the bandstand and Chelsea Gardens in the background. During 1976 and 1978, Chelsea Gardens was actually shown at Chelsea Gardens in London, and it was eventually moved back here and has been a feature in Telford Town Park since. This is the original footpath here that led you down to the original entrance into the town centre. You can see the blossom, it looks amazing. Lovely feature here, but also you can see the Maxwell cherry gardens. The Maxwell cherry gardens were a gift from Maxwell, who were a big company back in the 80s, and it gave them lots of different varieties of cherry trees. Really nice. I recommend anybody goes into Chelsea Gardens, especially when it's open this time of year with all of the blossoms. It should be beautiful, including the cherry gardens. So we're going to come down now, and there's the rocket slide into view, and very quiet Telford Town Park. The other big spiderweb used to be in front of us. So we just come up onto the bank here, and there we go, Southwater Lake in all its beauty. Well, it wasn't originally that shape. It's a completely new lake that's been built there, but originally there was one there. And you can see how iconic and new Southwater looks with the beautiful copper and gold buildings. This was a concept that was very popular in Milton Keynes, and that concept of being able to eat outside, a nice focal hub for Telford. Really good, and you can see so the Knife Angel's in town now. You can just see the back of it. So we're gonna just head around the corner here. There's Cineworld. Look at this beautiful parquet effect paving here as well on the floor. You miss it. Beautiful street furniture as well. So the you can see the police are there, look, keeping an eye on everybody, making sure everybody's behaving themselves. We've got Wilkinson's there on the left. That originally was a Spencer's Mill, and there you go, you have the entrance into the shopping centre. On the right originally would have been the library and Meeting Point House as well, which is still there. As we head back, we can see the iconic building Southwater 1 with a few restaurants, etc. So Knife Angel is in town for a couple of months, and here it is here. Sorry you can't actually see it, but this is where we end the video. Now there's plenty of places around here to park your bike if you wanted to go to the shopping centre, but join us again and we will show you how to get from Telford town centre to Randley. See you again, bye.